After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the ear and lip print. You will be able to learn the development process of ear and lip print. You will also know the validity of ear and lip print as a forensic evidence. Lip print. The study of lip print is called chiloscopy. An individual's lip print are exclusive, alike to fingerprints. Lip prints are rarely used in criminal cases as its credibility has been not established in our courts. There are two ways possibly using lip print, that is the print pattern for identification and the chromatography to match lipstick marks. Identification plays a major role in any crime investigation. The shape of creases on the lips has distinct features like fingerprint. Chiloscopy is a forensic investigation method that deals with identification of humans depending upon the lips traces. Larger studies on lip print has been carried out by various scientists called as tool for human identification in both civil and criminal cases. The lip creases shape exists on a vermilion border of the lip, which is relatively movable, and lip prints may vary in the form as per the pressure, direction and the method used for marking the print. It completes by enlightening the students with elements that are likelihood to use the red parts of lips for identification are extensive than it is commonly thought. Now, next we have the ear prints. The analysis of ear print was developed in criminological science. The awakening of forensic interest in the description of ear prints and an identification by means of ear printing is relatively recent. It constitutes one more step in the interminable race between criminal methods and criminalistic science. It is ever harder to find loboscopy indication of fingerprints at the crime scene as criminals are becoming increasingly knowledgeable, and the dissemination of criminalistic techniques in the media undoubtedly contributes to this. Now, let us see the history of lip print. R. Fisher, that is an anthropologist, was the first to describe it in 1902, the biological phenomenon of arrangement of furrows on the lips. Edmond Locard in 1932 from France, a criminologist, mentioned the use of lip print in the identification of individuals. This was earlier suggested by Lemoyne Sinder in 1950 in a case where lip print to resolve the case. It was further suggested by Dr. Martin Santos in 1960s that lip features can be used in personal identification and also given identification or classification of lip prints. A detailed study was done by Suzuki in 1967 on the measurements of lip prints. He used shades of lipsticks and techniques of its removal for obtaining valuable data for forensic application. Later, in 1971, Suzuki and Toshihashi conducted a study and they devised their own classification. In 1990, Kasperzak conducted research for the period of 5 years on 1500 persons to elaborate the practical use of lip prints. It was during the period 2000 to 2012 that the study was carried out by several researchers from different countries and also in India. Now, let us see the classification of lip print. In 1967, Santos was the first person to categorize lip grooves to 4 categories, that is, the straight line, curved line, angled line and sign-shaped line. Suzuki and Tsuchihashi in 1970 developed a grouping method of lip print. That is the Suzuki and Tsuchihashi classification. Type first, a clear-cut groove running vertically across the lip. Type second, dash partially length groove of type first. Next is type second, a branch groove. Then type third, an intersected groove. Type fourth, a rectangular pattern. And type fifth, other patterns. This organization is very generally used for recording the prints on the lips. Now let us see recording the lip prints. Lip prints can be recorded in number of ways, like photographing the suspect's lip on a non-porous surface like a mirror. They can be snapped, enlarged and edges tracing made of the furrows. Putting the lipstick or other suitable medium on the lips and then individual asked to press his or her lips to a piece of a paper or a cellophane tube or similar surface. Using a finger printer, preferably a roller finger printer. By having the subject impress his or her lips without lipstick or other recording medium against a suitable surface and then processing these prints with either conventional fingerprint developing powder or with a magna brush and magnetic powder. Now we will see about the development of lip print. Basic latent lip print dusting. Mostly regular non-magnetic powder are used by various crime scene investigators as it can be used on various surfaces like the windows, TV sets, etc. at burglary scene. It can also be used on a metal file cabinet or metal window frames. Various regular powders are available in the market like black, silver, grey, bichromatic and white. Appropriate color is selected to give appropriate contrast with the background surface in order to have a clear picture about the latent print. Now let us see to developing the latent lip print. To record the lip prints using the magna brush method, the person should impress his or her lips against a glossy porous surface or a smooth non-porous surface. These lip prints should be then subjected to a heat source until they are solidified or should be allowed to air dry. These prints should then be powdered using a magna brush and a magnetic powder. Conventional powder methods are usually unsuitable for powdering lip prints in as much as the brush tends to smear, leave streak marks on the print. These streak marks may be then interpreted as false characteristics by the comparator or comparer. These magnetic powders and magna brush are costly as compared to that of the conventional powder. Now let us see how lip print in crime detection. Just like a fingerprint and teeth, lip print can be used as a tool for identification. Lip prints are unique and do not change during a life of a person. Traces of lips should be looked for a cutlery or crockery items on the window or door glass and on photographs or letters. Lip prints may also appear on side by side with tooth marks or food products. In practice, lip prints have been also seen in windows, painting, doors, plastic bags and cigarette ends. They can be most frequently seen during murders, rapes and burglaries. Traces with clear lines and individual elements enable individual identification of a human being. In a sense, lip prints have the same value as the dactyloscopic traces. In the cases of traces, the shape of stains, the identification examination terminates with group identification. In their character, they are similar to the other chemical and biological traces. Now, let us see lip print in court of law. lip print identification is generally accepted within the forensic science community as a means of positive identification because it appears in the literature. Lip print identification methodology, although seldom used, is very similar to fingerprint comparison and is known and accepted form of scientific comparison. There is no dissent in the forensic science community with regards to either in methodology used or fact that the lip print provide a positive identification. The Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) and the Illinois State Police consider that the lip prints are unique like fingerprints and are positive means of identification. Now, let us see about ear print analysis. The outer ear is constituted of a cartilaginous bone structures covered with teguments. The cartilage lamina is folded in on itself, forming a protuberance and depression that gives the outer ear its characteristic shape, which has been only too well described in anatomical text. Descriptions can also be found in the literature of the variations from the knob that can occur due to multiple causes such as abnormalities owing to disease, mechanical or surgical traumas, or anesthetic reasons. Modification caused by aging have also been described relating to the increase in the laxity of the tissue, which manifests itself in an increase in the vertical length of the outer ear. There are furthermore significant variation due to ethnic origin, particularly with reference to the size of the ears. Diverse methods have been used to systemize the description of the outer ear. Bertillon made a purely descriptive analysis of its parts. Sacheverell described the form of the helix, the lobe, and the 6 variants of Darwin's tubercle besides the tragus, antitragus, and the angle of the outer ear to the brain. He designed 5 imaginary lines on the basis of which he spoke about the morphological index and the psychognomical index. Enarel used a system of 4 lines centered in the tragus for the radial partition of the outer ear into 8 areas of comparative purposes. The ear print is a 2-dimensional reproduction of the parts of the outer ear that have touched a specific surface and that are usually the most prominent region of the same. That is to say, the most commonly the helix, antihelix, tragus and antitragus. These type of prints like fingerprints are produced by the remains of desquamation, sweat and grease that the skin leaves on the contact with the surface. They are not visible to the naked eye but are recovered very easily with physical or chemical developers. The most common reason for the print being left is simple. Criminals that are going to burgle a house lean their ear against the door to make sure that there is nobody inside and leave their print on it. The prints may be more or less fragmentary, marked, or well defined depending on the diverse factors such as the degree of greasiness of the skin, the application of the face or hair to the same area, or even the volume of sound that they were trying to hear. It is subsequently necessary to collect the print with a glass slide or methacrylate base. It has been reported that it is possible to determine approximately the height of the suspect by means of the ear print on the basis of floor to print distance with certain corrections. Once the latent print from the crime scene, that is unknown print, has been developed, we must compare it with a print of the ear of the suspect, that is the known print. In general, three methods have traditionally been used for comparison of print, that is superimposition, that is placing one print over another with transparencies and comparing them. Second is direct comparison and dissection, dividing the print into sections and interchanging them to check the coincidences and superimpositions. The degree to which an ear print represents the original ear can be affected by diverse factors. The size itself can vary, as can interdistance between the different points of reference, depending on the degree of pressure exerted. The methods of print collection and analysis are designed to attempt to resolve these problems. March proposes a method of quantitative classification using a polar axis designed or drawn on the basis of a vertical line, that is the tangent common to the internal margin of the impression of the anterior-superior curvature of the helix and the tip of tragus. Ingelby uses a similar geometric standardization but claims that the definition of polar axis proposed by Mart is difficult to employ in practice. Ingley therefore calculates it with the use of a computer on the basis of centroids, that is the centers of intensity. In any case, the description of the inter-individual variation in the ear print represents a genuine challenge. The solution is outlined through image processing techniques with algorithms that permits us to draw from the print a reliable model of the characteristics of a specific outer ear. Now, let us learn about validity of ear print as a forensic evidence. The forensic validity of the ear print is based on the possibility of identifying a particular ear print as belonging to a particular subject. In practice, this can serve to rule out a subject as a suspect, to increase the evidence against a particular suspect, or even, if there are no suspects, to search for suspects in future databases. The limitations of the method are obvious and relate to the uniqueness of the ear print. Furthermore, it is possible for one single ear to leave different prints. This may be due to the manner in which prints are made, principally as has been mentioned, to the degree of the pressure or the angle at which the ear was applied to the surface, but also to anatomical modification of the outer ear. As has been mentioned, attempts have been made to deal with these intra-individual variation with diverse methods of analysis. The other problem is whether or not two different ears could leave a similar or identical print, or if, on the contrary, there is a sufficient inter-individual variability to be able to distinguish between two different ears in all situations. The validity of the method depends fundamentally on the probability of two different ears leaving indistinguishable prints being reasonably small. In any case, the result of analysis will be always expressed in terms of probability. Identification by means of ear printing is included amongst the so-called anthropomorphic test. These are included amongst the body examination aimed to identify the accused. What is crucial is to determine the degree of significance that said test should be given as a circumstantial evidence. Jurisprudence has accorded the status of probative evidence to the laparoscopy reports that prove indisputably that the prints found at the crime scene belongs to the accused. However, there is no jurisprudence, nor doctrinal studies, nor studies relating to the comparative law on the value that can be given to an ear print found in a particular place. Legally, there is an important difference between whether the print does in fact irrefutably corresponding to the ear of the accused, or if on the contrary it is a print that merely presents similar characteristics to those of ear of accused. In the later case, it would be comparable to a shoe print, or in the print of wheel that could be said to similar to the shoe print or the wheel print of a vehicle belonging to a particular individual. In later case, the probative value of the print would be weaker. More circumstantial element would be needed to reach a conclusion that a particular person had participated in a specific event. In the opinion of the European scientific police, the study of the ear, due to its morphology and characteristic, is an excellent method of personal identification. It is hypothesized that all ears are different and they present a series of characteristics that are capable of leaving prints that are valid for an investigation of a certain crimes. Conceptually, the uniqueness of the ear is based on the so-called snowflake paradigm, that is, the nature never repeats itself. However, it is clear that it is not possible to establish the individuality of the ear empirically, even though in practice it would be sufficient to be able to distinguish between any two ears through a finite number of characteristics. In the United States, there have been numerous rulings to the contrary, and identification by ear printing is regarded with great distrust. The Court of Appeal of the State of Washington in 1999 pronounced the scientific innovation technical knowledge or other specialized knowledge can be admitted or can be considered reliable only if in general it is considered to be reliable by the technical, scientific or specialist community. General acceptance can be found in the testimony of whoever affirms it, in the article and publication, in its extended use in the community or in other courts. General acceptance cannot be found if there is a significant dispute between qualified experts with respect to the validity of the scientific evidence. In this case, 12 respected members of forensic science community declared that identification through ear print was not generally accepted by the community of forensic science. Despite the progress made over the last several years, the lack of support in scientific literature is the great weakness of current state of ear printing identification. Now students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. The study of lip print is called chiloscopy, and individual lip prints are exclusive alike to the fingerprint. The analysis of ear prints was developed in criminological science. The awakening of forensic interest in the description of ear print and in identification by means of ear printing is relatively recent. To record the lip print using the magna brush method, the person should impress his or her lips against a glossy porous surface or a smooth non-porous surface. The ear print is a two-dimensional reproduction of parts of outer ear that have touched a specific surface and that are usually the most prominent region of the same, that is to say are the most commonly helix, antihelix, tragus and antitragus.